Hi, welcome to my video on review 2 of sinusoidal functions. This review is on the videos 20 to 36, and as in all my reviews, you can treat it as a quiz, and this one will be marked out of a total of 43. You divide 43 into your total, get a decimal, and then move your decimal 2 places to the right to get the percent. So let's start our review, see how well you know the remaining part of this unit. Number 1, y equals -3 sine 4 theta minus 20 plus 2 is a sinusoidal equation in terms of sine. And to find the maximum value, well, we have a to be -3, we have k to be 2 because that's the a and that's the k. The maximum value is k plus the absolute value of a, and k is 2 plus the absolute value of -3, so that's 2 plus 3, so the maximum value is 5. And if you think about it, the sinusoidal axis is at 2, and you add on 3 to go up 5, and you take away 3, you go down to -1. So the minimum value is k subtract the absolute value of a. So k is 2, subtract the absolute value of -3, 2 subtract absolute value of -3 is 3, 2 subtract 3 is -1. If you get each of these right, give yourself a mark. The domain of a sinusoidal function is the set of all thetas such that theta belongs to the reals. So it's all real values in the degrees or as a radian. Give yourself a mark if you have reals. And the range, the lowest value is -1. The highest value is 5. So it's a set of all y such that -1 is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to 5, where y belongs to the real numbers. So all the values of y between -1 and 5, and including -1 and 5. Give yourself a mark if you have this. Find the maximum value of the sinusoidal function if the minimum value is -2 and the sinusoidal axis is 1. So if the minimum value is -2 and the sinusoidal axis is at 1, that means the maximum is above that. So this is -2 to 1 is a 3, so we put 3 on here, so the maximum value is 4. Give yourself a mark if you have that right. Now we have to find the equation of this graph. Well, what I normally do, I look for the sinusoidal axis. Sinusoidal axis is right here, splits the graph in half, like that. So the sinusoidal axis is y equals 1, so that means k is equal to 1. And next thing I do is the amplitude. I write it AMP. The amplitude is the height from the sinusoidal axis to the max or to the min. And 1, 2, 3 units up. So the amplitude is 3. And let's look at the period. The period is, take from this point to this point, so the period is 1 cycle, so there's a sideways C, so from 20 to 140, so it's 140 minus 20, so the period is 120 degrees. And that means if our period is 360 degrees divided by B, so that means we have the period is 120, is 360 divided by B, cross multiply, we get 120, B equals 360, so divide by 120, so B is 360 divided by 120, so B is 3. Now we have, let's look at the phase shift. The phase shift is, notice this graph we're saying starting at A. So the phase shift starting at A, the phase shift is 20 degrees. That means the H is equal to 20. And notice the graph is a sideways C. So it's like this. Sideways C, like this. So that means the graph is going to be a cos, sideways C, C for cos. The graph is going up from A, and the up is negative, up from the point A. So that means that the A value is, the amplitude is a -3. The amplitude is 3 because it's always positive, but because it's going up from A, it's a -3. So that means the equation is y equals, we can go A cos B theta minus H plus K. So A is -3. It's a cos graph because it's a sideways C. B is 3. H is 20, so we'll make it the opposite, which is the -20. And the K is, we said the K is the sine 1. Sinusoidal axis is 1. So there's 6 marks. So 2 marks, a mark for the negative, mark for the 3, mark for cos, mark for the 3, mark for -20, and mark for the 1, 6 marks altogether. So you have a total of 11 for that page. Hopefully everything is going okay. Here we go. Just to remind you that the questions are done in the order of the videos. Find the equation of the sinusoidal function if we have 2 points A and B, and A is the starting point and on the sinusoidal axis, and B is the minimum point. So let's draw a little let's draw the axis here. And so let's put A to be, this is A here, and we'll make that's a negative pi over 2 comma 2, and B is pi over 2, there's B here, pi over 2 comma -2, so there's B, so it's pi over 2 comma -2. So it says that A lies on the sinusoidal axis, B is the minimum. So this is the sinusoidal axis is horizontal, so there's the sinusoidal axis right there. So the sinusoidal axis is y equals 2. So it's going from the sinusoidal axis to the minimum. So it's going down like this. And this is a part of it, but this is a part, so if you think about it, it comes up again, and it keeps on going up, and then it comes down. So there's the whole sideways S. So if you think about it, this is 1/4 of it. This is from here to here is half of it, and there's 3/4 full part. So the amplitude is the height. So the height is from sinusoidal axis to here. So from 2 down to -2. So the height is 4. And this is a sideways S. So we have it's starting on the sinusoidal axis is a sine, and it's going down from here. And that means going down, sine going down is negative. So that means A is a -4. And the number of degrees here goes from pi over 2, subtract -pi over 2. So that's pi over 2, add on pi over 2. So that's 2 pi over 2, or pi. So if this is pi degrees, or think of it, that's a -90 to a 90, so that's 180. But there's 4 of them, so that's 4 times pi. So we have the period to be 4 pi. So the period is 4 pi. So P is equal to 2 pi divided by B. So that equals, let's go down here, period is 4 pi equals 2 pi divided by B. And that means 4 pi B equals 2 pi. So that means B is equal to 2 pi divided by 4 pi. So B is 1 over 2. The pi's cancels out. And the shift, the phase shift, the phase shift is a negative pi over 2. It's gone pi over 2 to the left. And the sinusoidal axis is y equals 2. So that means k is 2. So we have a sine graph. So we have y equals a sine b of theta minus h plus k. So a is negative 4. It's a sine graph. We start on the sinusoidal and go on making an S. B is a half. And the phase shift is a negative pi over 2. So that means it's going to be a positive pi over 2. And k is going to be 2. And again, 6 points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you have the 6 of them correct, give yourself 6 marks, and the total for that page is 6. And let's continue. A water wheel has its axle at the water level. The diameter of the wheel is 36. It rotates at a speed of 2 pi feet per second. Point A lies on the circumference of the wheel. Find the equation of the height of A. If A is at its maximum height, state the equation in function notation using the h of t. So we have a water wheel. So let's say that's the water level. And the water wheel is like this. It says that the axle is at the water level. So there's the axle at the water level. A is on the circumference and A is at its maximum. A is on the circumference. A is somewhere around here, but it's at its maximum point. So there's A. So that's where we're going to do the equation from. So we have a diameter of 36 feet. That means that the diameter is twice the radius. That means twice the radius is 36. That means the radius is 18. If the radius is 18, that means the amplitude, the radius is the amplitude. So the radius is 18, which is the absolute value of A. So A is absolute is 18. And notice we have, if we start here and go down, we're starting on the maximum point. So we have a cos graph, and it's going down, and a cos going down is positive. So that means that A is going to be a positive 18. And let's look at it says the speed of the wheel is 3 pi feet per second. Well, we got speed, distance, and time. We gotta get the period. So we have distance is rate times time. So the time is the distance divided by the rate, and the distance around the wheel is the circumference. So it's divided by the speed. So the circumference is 2 pi r, and the speed is 3 pi feet per second. So let's keep simplifying that. So we have 2 pi, the radius is 18 and it's in feet. So radius is 18 feet divided by 3 pi feet per second. So that gives us, that's 36 feet 36 pi feet divided by 3 pi feet per second. So the pi's cancel out and we get 12 seconds. So we have the period is, again, this is in terms of, as you can see, is in terms of radians, so it's 2 pi divided by b. So the period is 12. There's 2 pi divided by b. Cross multiply, and we get 12b equals 2 pi divided by 12. So b becomes pi over 6. And we have a phase shift. Phase shift off the maximum is 0, so that means h is 0. And the amplitude, the sinusoidal axis, is right here, water level. So the sinusoidal axis is, we have a height of the sinusoidal axis 0, which means that we have the k, make that a k, I'm going to put an 8, k is 0. So we have the h of t is, and this is a cos graph, so it's a cos b t minus h plus k. So a is plus 18, or just 18, cos b is pi over 6, h is 0, and k is 0. So the equation is 18 cos pi over 6 times t. And again, you get plus is 1, 18 is 1, cos is 1, pi over 6 is 1, t is 1, and k is 1, 6 marks. Total up your page. Okay, trying to make the problems a little bit different to vary. And let's continue. Solving equations. Find all possible values of theta in degrees. So it's already solved for cos, so we're going to let 2 theta plus 25 degrees equal a. So we have cos a is negative root 3 over 2. And on the special triangle, we got a 30 and a 60, 90. Opposite 30 is a half, root 3 over 2, 1. So we have, and now we know that the angle, we got a negative, so we're going to say the cos of the reference angle is negative positive root 3 over 2. So the reference angle, the cos of 30, cos is adjacent, so it's a 30-degree angle. And we're going to add sugar to coffee, and we're going to find out quadrants. Notice cos is positive, cos is the x, cos is positive 1 and 2, so it's negative in, cos is positive in 1 and 4, and it's negative in 2 and 3. So we draw the terminal arm in 2, terminal arm in 3. The reference angle is 30 between the terminal arm and the x-axis. Between terminal arm and the x-axis. So this rotation here, A is 180 minus 30. So A is 150 degrees. And right here, the rotation is from the initial arm all the way around. So A is 300 and, I drew it in. So sorry about that. I'm supposed to draw it in the third quadrant, reference angle. I went all the way. I just looked back and seen that I ticked the, so A is 180 plus 30, because it's the second quadrant, so it's 210. So A is 50, so that means we have 2 times theta plus 25 5 degrees equals 150. And the period, this is in degrees, so it's 360 times n, where n belongs to the integers. And the other angle, we'll work on this one first. I'll write down the other one right here. So 2 times theta, make that theta, is equal to 210 plus 360 n, where n belongs to the integers. That's each one. So we'll solve them. Solve them for theta. 2 times theta, 2 times 25 is 50. 150. And that's 2 theta, and that's 150. Take away 50 is 100. And we divide by 2, so we get 50 degrees. Divide by 2, you get 180. And that's all the possible values, starting at the 50 and rotating. Notice the period. This is a 2. There's 2 cycles, so the period is 180. And we solve this one. That's one answer. Multiply by 2. And again, put in the integers when n is 0, 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, etc. We find all the angles. Continue to solve this one. 2 theta. 210 minus 50 is 160. Divide by 2, we get an 80. 180. So one answer is right here, all of these, and this is the other one. So that's all the possible values of theta that satisfy this equation. And there's 5 marks. So if you got the reference angle of 30, give yourself a mark. If you got 150 and 210, you give yourself a mark each. If you got each of these, you give yourself a mark. So 5 marks in total. Okay, now we're solving this equation, but notice that the domain is restricted from a -2 pi up to 4 pi, not including 4 pi. So we have to solve this equation. So 4 root 2 sine 1/3 pi over 4 is 5 minus 1. So solve it right out to just get, that's a 4, and then we divide by 4 root 2 on each side. So just a little bit of work, not too much. Little tiny bit of, make that a 3, not a 2. And the 4's cancel, and I get 1 over root 2, but we're not allowed to have a radical in the denominator, so we'll rationalize. So 1 times root 2 is root 2. Root 2 times root 2 is root 4, which is 2. And we have a special right triangle. This is a 45. Sides are root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2, 1. So that means that before we will let 1/3 cos pi over 4 equal a. So we have the sine of a equals root 2 over 2. That means the reference angle is 45 degrees. And we'll go to, this time I'll make sure I put them in the right quadrants. Last time I didn't. 45 reference, add sugar to coffee, and sine is positive in 1 and 2. So quadrant 1 and quadrant 2, reference angle is 45. So A is 45 degrees first quadrant, reference angle is 45. So A is 180 minus 45. So A is 135. And we have radians, so that means 45 is a pi over 4, and right here there's 3 45s, so it's 3 pi over 4. We can multiply. We can take the 45 and multiply it by pi over 180, and 45 is in 184 times, so it's a pi over 4. And if that's a pi over 4 here, this will be a pi over 4, so there's 3 45s in 135. And so now we have the angle is 1/3 theta plus pi over 4 equals pi over 4 plus 2 pi n, where n belongs to the integers. And we'll write the other one down. 1/3 theta plus pi over 4 equals 3 pi over 4 plus 2 pi n. N belongs to the integers. So let's take our time and work this one out. So multiply by 1/3. We can go 1/3 times theta. 1/3 times pi over 4 is pi over 12. Just take our time, and so that's pi over 4 minus pi over 12. And that's 12 is the denominator for 4 and 12. 3 times 4 is 12. This is 3 pi minus pi. Whoop, make that a pi, not. So that's 1/3. And so that's 3 pi, take away pi is 2 pi. 2 pi over 12 becomes pi over 6. Now we multiply by 3, so we get theta. 3 times pi over 6, it becomes a pi over 2. And 3 times 2 pi is 6 pi n. So we have that one solved out. So let's go over and solve this one out before we start putting the n's in. 1/3 theta plus pi over 12. 1/3 times pi over 4. I said pi over 12 and put down a pi over 4. Just got to be careful. Equals 3 pi over 4. And we have 1/3 pi. 1/3 theta, sorry. 3 pi over 4 minus pi over 12. And 12 is the denominator. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 3 is 9. So we get 1/3 theta, and that's over 12. So that becomes 9 pi minus 1 pi is 8 pi over 12. And 4 and 8 goes 2, so there's 2 pi over 3. And we multiply by 3, so we get that's a 4 into, that's 4 and that's 2, 4 and that's 3, so we multiply by 3, so we get theta is 2 pi plus 6 pi n. Okay. Now we'll say n and theta. N is 0. Put 0 in here. We get a pi over 2. And we put 1 in there. And we get pi over 2 plus 6 pi. But we're only allowed to go up as far as 4 pi, so we can't go any more. We'll try the negative one to go down. So it's a pi over 2 minus 6 pi. So that gives me, that's further down than the negative 2, so that was no good. And over here, I just want to check this one again. It seems to be, that's 3, 9, 8. 4 is 2 and the 3. And we'll multiply by, okay, that's good. We got an n, and we got theta. We got a 0, put a 0 in, and we get 2 pi. And we put a 1 in, we get 2 pi plus 6 pi, which is 8 pi, so that's too much. Put a negative 1 in, we get 2 pi minus 6 pi, which is negative 4 pi, and that's down too much. So the answer for theta is pi over 2 and 2 pi. And there's 8 marks for this question. So if you have the equation solved out, as far as here, you get a mark. If you have 45 reference, you get a mark. If you have these two radiants, you get a mark each. And if you work the answers out all like this, you get 2 marks for this one, 2 marks for this one, 8 marks altogether. Okay, let's continue. The last one to do. A boat is floating on a windy lake. Its height from the bottom of the lake is represented by h of t 4 cos pi over 3 times t minus 2 plus 23, where the height h is in meters, the time t is in seconds. Find the time when the height is 19 meters in the first half minute. Okay, so we have an equation. So we write down that equation. And it also says, this is find the height, and the height is 19, so the h of t equals 19 meters. So we have to solve the equation. So we got 4 cos pi over 3. And so we solve the equation out, bring the 23 over. So 19 minus 23 is negative 4. Divide by 4, and we get cos pi over 3. T minus 2 is negative 1. So we'll let A equal cos, or pi over 3 t minus 2. So the cos of A is negative 1. So that means on the unit circle, cos is negative 1. Cos is the x, that's right there. So that means that A is, cos is a negative 1 at 180. And we have it in terms of radians, so that means A is pi. And so we have the angle A is pi over 3 t minus 2 equals pi. It's in radians, so it's 2 pi n, where n belongs to the integers. So, okay, now we solve this out. So the easiest way here, I can multiply by 3 over pi on the right side, sorry, on the left side. And I can multiply 3 over pi by pi, and 3 over pi by 2 pi n. So I'm multiplying all parts of the equation by 3 over pi. 3's cancel out, pi's cancel out, so I get t minus 2. The pi's cancel out, I get a 3. And the pi's cancel out, and I get 6n. So t equals 3 plus 2 plus plus 6n. And again, where n belongs to the integers, t is 5 plus 6n, where n belongs to the integers. So, if we let n, and we get time, but n is 0, that's a 0, so we get a 5. When n is 1, we get 6 plus 5 is 11. N is 2, we get 12 plus 5 is 17, just adding on 6. 3 is an 18. 18 and 5 is 23. 4, we're just adding on 6. 29 in the first half minute. So half minute is 30 seconds. So the time that it has a height of 19 is 5, 11, 17, 23, 29. That's the seconds. And its height will be 19. And there's 7 marks. So if you have this equation written down, give yourself a mark. If you solved it out to -1, give yourself a mark. If you have the reference, if you have pi, a is pi, give yourself a mark. And if you wrote this down, you give yourself a mark. And if you worked right to the end here, you start mark. If you worked out all these answers, a couple more marks, 7 marks in total. So hopefully everything went well. Total of all the pages, and put your mark over 30 over 43 and convert it to percent, and hopefully you did well. If you did make an error, just look it over and look back on the videos to find out where your error is and see if you understand why you made it. And again, this is the last video on the sinusoidal functions. And if you like my video, click the like button. If you're not a subscriber, if you want to subscribe channel, click the subscribe button. Visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. The content on my YouTube channel called Math Fully Explained. Thank you for viewing my video. Hope you enjoyed the unit on sinusoidal functions. And I hope my unit helped you understand sinusoidal functions, my videos on that topic. Bye-bye.